Good morning. Wednesday, April 18th, 2018 was the second worst day of my life, the first being when my dad died. Because at that point, I realized that there are two things in life you can never get back. You can't get back a loved one who's passed, and you can't get back your freedom. Everything else is fungible. Everything in life you can get back. On the morning of Wednesday, April 18th, I drove my daughter to work, and I commented, Kelly, I'll tell you what, where would you like to go to dinner? Because after my sentencing is over, my attorney promised I wouldn't be remanded. We'll go to dinner somewhere. She chose a restaurant. At sentencing that afternoon, I remember that the judge, after he read my sentence of 60 months, when my attorney promised me probation, said to the U.S. Marshals, stand by the door and no one can leave the room. I had no idea what was going on at that point until two U.S. Marshals came up behind me, asked me to take off my tie, empty my pockets, and then immediately handcuffed me. My family was in shock, and they marched me into the bowels of the Philadelphia Federal Detention Center, where I started my journey in the Bureau of Prisons. For 6 weeks, I spent at the Philadelphia Detention Center in a cell with another gentleman until one morning, an officer said, Mangel, it's time to pack up. Didn't know what he was talking about. I thought I was going to be at the detention center for the balance of my sentence. And he said, you're being shipped. I said, where? We can't tell you where. It's a secret. The U.S. Marshals are the only ones who know. I didn't know that where I was going was top secret, but to the Bureau of Prisons it is. And they proceeded to take me down to the loading dock, where somebody said to me, it's time to be shackled, and undressed me, and then proceeded to shackle my legs and my arms. The gentleman next to me, who was also going on a prison bus, said to me, wow, this is diesel therapy. Hey, aren't you going to a camp? And I said, I think so, on minimum security. He said, well, tell the guard that you want to be a bus orderly. I had no idea what that meant. Got on the bus with 40 other men, all shackled, wearing like a light polyester jumpsuit. And I said to the guard, hey, I'm minimum security. I'd like to be an orderly. He said, perfect. He then unhandcuffed me, unshackled me, and he said, your job is to make sure everyone on this bus has water, and when it's time to feed them, is fed. Again, I had no idea where I was going. We drove down 95 in Philadelphia. Next stop was Petersburg, Virginia. Got to Petersburg. No one told us anything other than get off the bus. We were immediately taken into a transit area, and I was housed in a cell with someone for the next 3 or 4 nights. One morning, guard came, knocked on the door at 4 o'clock and said, Mangel, pack out. At that point, I really had nothing to pack, but put me on another bus at this point to go to Atlanta, USP. And if you're not aware of Atlanta, it's the second oldest prison in the country. When you pull up, you see 40-foot walls and guard towers. It is scary. And at that point, I was thrown into a very large area, and the sign outside my cell said, camp status. Of course, I was housed with a medium security, a person that spoke no English. I was at the Atlanta USP for about 5 nights before once again I was packed up on the bus and headed to Tallahassee, Florida. Tallahassee, Florida, I'm now 10 days into this journey, this voyage. Tallahassee, Florida, again, I was put in a cell, but this time only for 1 night, where again, the next morning, put back on a bus. At this point, I learned, how to be an orderly, and driven down to Miami. So for about 2 weeks, I was bussed around the eastern part of the country, southeastern part of the country, in what is known as diesel therapy. Diesel therapy is when they put inmates on a bus for transport. And if it's something that I stress more than anything is to be prepared for that, but the importance of talking to your attorney before sentencing to make sure that you can do your best not to be remanded to custody. Very few judges in the country actually remand to custody, but there are a fair number that are known for doing that. So the importance of knowing what to talk to your attorney about before sentencing, but also if your judge is known to remanded sentencing, be prepared. Be prepared not only for being held in a state or a county or a federal detention center for an unknown amount of time, but also for that bus ride or plane ride to your ultimate destination. Because in my experience, through the BOP for the 21 or 22 months I was in, that 2 weeks of diesel therapy was one of the worst experiences you could have. It's scary, it's unknown, And really the fear of not knowing what's your next stop or how long you're going to be on a bus is worrying. So being aware and knowing everything or as much as possible before sentencing, I think is one of the most important aspects of this journey. If you have any questions, concerns, call me, text me. I'm always available. Thank you.